actual hater. Federal government backbencher Craig Kelly says he's decided to quit the Liberal Party so he can speak frankly and fearlessly. The ABC has been told Mr Kelly handed his letter of resignation to the Prime Minister during today's party room meeting. Mr Kelly was recently criticised by Scott Morrison for pushing alternative therapies for coronavirus on social media. He's told Sky News he'll sit on the crossbench, but will continue to provide support for the government on matters of supply and confidence.
If I'm best to represent the constituents of my area and to be faithful to the oath that I took when I swore in as a Member of Parliament and to be able to speak frankly and fearlessly, I need to do that from the crossbench rather than from the government benches.
The Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, says the government has made the single largest increase to the unemployment benefit in more than 30 years. People on the job seeker will get an extra $25 a week under a move to permanently increase the base payment to $307 a week. The government temporarily increased the support during the COVID-19 crisis, but that supplement is due to end in March. Business and welfare groups had called for a higher increase, but Mr Morrison is satisfied the boost is adequate.
We are now confident that at the end of next month, that our social safety net can once again be able to provide the support it needs to Australians as we come out of the COVID-19 recession.
US President Joe Biden says Americans must see light at the end of the coronavirus tunnel, despite the national COVID-19 death toll passing 500,000. That's more than double the deaths recorded in any other country. The bells of the National Cathedral tolled 500 times as President Biden led a commemoration service in Washington.
As a nation, we can't accept such a cruel fate. While we've been fighting this pandemic for so long, we have to resist becoming numb to the sorrow. We have to resist viewing each life as a statistic or a blur or on the news. We must do so to honour the dead.
The United States has imposed sanctions on 2 members of Myanmar's military junta. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says the US will not hesitate to take further action against the military if it continues to perpetrate violence and suppress the will of the people. Closer to home, the Queensland government is pushing ahead with plans to overhaul the youth justice system. Speaking in Parliament this morning, the Police Minister has confirmed legislation will be introduced this week to enable a suite of reforms, including trialling GPS trackers for older repeat juvenile offenders and strengthening anti-hooning laws. Mark Ryan says while 90% of youth offenders don't recommit crimes, the remaining 10% are responsible for almost half of all youth crime.
It is this group we will target with all the force and resources at our disposal. Speaker, we will always do what is necessary to enhance community safety and hold offenders to account for their actions.
It's worked well.
The Victorian coroner has called for more research into the effect of contact sports on brains, following an investigation into the death of former AFL player and coach Danny Frawley. Leanne Wong reports.
Danny Frawley died in a car crash near Ballarat on September 2019. A post-mortem analysis by the Australian Sports Brain Bank found he was suffering from chronic traumatic encephalopathy, better known as CTE, a brain disease linked to repeated blows to the head. Today, the Victorian coroner, Parisa Spanos, released her findings, saying Mr Frawley's mental state began deteriorating in the months leading up to his death. She says CTE was a potential contributor to Mr Frawley's depression, but says there's insufficient knowledge about its specific impact because of a lack of research.
Australia's oldest painting has been identified as a kangaroo, created more than 17,000 years ago in WA's Kimberley. The University of Melbourne-led research used fossilised wasp nests under and on top of the paint to calculate the age of the artworks. Lead author Dr Damien Finch says the nests contain ancient charcoal which can be dated.
With some really specialised equipment at the Australia's Nuclear Science and Technology Organisation at Lucas Heights, we can date tiny microscopic parts of charcoal that were incorporated into those nests when the wasp picked up the mud from the ground.
ABC News.